listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
All right, here we are, and I guess we are into the Christmas season, so I just want to tell everyone they don't know the excitement of this, but I'm actually wearing a festive sweater, and by festive I mean it's not black. I don't know if I've ever been on the podcast in anything other than black or navy.
I'm really sorry
stripes.
that I took off my brown sweater that I was wearing because I feel like we could look like an amazing folk group from the 60s.
Yeah, because I'm wearing a sweater. I'm wearing a brown sweater as well.
Yes.
But I mean, Lisa, I love how this sort of very subtle, basic, most people would call it, is your version of the festive Christmas sweater.
Yeah, this will be my festive Christmas sweater. If I show up at a holiday do in this sweater, I'm saying to you, I'm going out of my comfort zone and I'm wearing color. And technically, when I ordered this sweater, it was called apricot. That's the name of the color.
I think that's a dried apricot.
Or it's like the apricot seed.
The pit. Yeah, I think it's the pit.
Wow, okay. So this is not quite the vibrant color that I was seeing myself in.
No, it's like the place you bought it from knows you. And they're like, she's saying she wants apricot, but she wants brown.
Well, maybe it's just this. I am kind of blending in with my own background of my own home.
She wants stone fruit brown.
Yeah, I probably would have ordered that. But look, it's got a little bit of a little bit of pattern in it too.
You know what I was thinking is you could hang candy canes off the turtleneck and hand them out to people. And that would be so festive.
Well, okay, many options. I see that my daring sense of color has not been appreciated by the fine women of Pop This, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll let it slide.
But so, Cynara, you're the colorful fashionista of our group. What is your Christmas look?
What is my Christmas look? Well, I guess I think a lot of the colors mentioned in Christmas songs. So silver bells, I like. Maybe a silver and blue. I also like red and green. Also gold, silver and gold. I feel like Christmas is a great time for mixing metallics because Christmas decorations are often you can do it to a theme, but I think I'm a big fan of people who just throw everything on the tree. They're not doing a palette.
No lookbooks here, hey?
Me too.
All that to say is I think but I kind of think anything metallic can be festive. Don't you? If you wore an all black, I don't know, bodysuit, but then you threw a metallic pink leather jacket over that. Festive.
Yeah, that feels like a sophisticated way to do
that.
Festive.
Sounds more New Year's to me, actually.
Interesting. What makes it New Year's? Is it the leather?
The leather, the shine.
But Lisa, do you go all black on New Year's Eve as well? Usually?
I just usually wear all black and, or navy or, I have a thing for stripes. I wear a lot of stripes.
Yeah.
So
on New Year's Eve, she adds a subtle silver stud.
Yeah. I go way out. I might put on a red lipstick.
Oh, I like that. It's classic.
That's just how,
I have a handful of velvet and sequined items that only come out at Christmas.
Well, you're not going to be wearing velvet in July.
Just it feels like you can't
Unless
wear
that's
velvet.
your whole look, right? Because I remember reading this one line and it stuck with me. It just said, rock stars don't dress for the weather.
True. That's true.
And I got actually in trouble with my neighbor, and she was trying to convince her daughter not to wear something in the summer that she thought looked a bit warm. And I said that line. I said, rock stars don't dress for the weather. And the daughter was like, "You see, Mom?" And the mom was like, "Thanks."
I saw a great meme that your 20s in fashion is like, a coat will ruin this look, but your 30s and beyond in fashion is like, the coat is the look. And I'm like, yes. Honestly, very accurate. Like, we used to talk about, we used to say when we were like wearing skimpy bar outfits when I was like a youth in the Canadian prairies, like, we're going hobogganing. Like, we were really stupid about how we were dressing so inappropriately for the weather in our slutty attire. But I
have to say, in my opinion, the girls who dress, you know, I'm wearing this, I don't care if it's 40 below, they're the real heroines.
Yeah, you know, but I'm just saying, like, it was such a thing. Like, we were really into that being part of our rebellion was against Mother Nature herself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean, and I applaud you for saying, this is what I'm doing tonight, and a coat would just ruin it. But yeah.
By mentioning Mother Nature, I was strongly tying in our theme.
You were segueing. You are joining us for Pop This, a little bit different for this Christmas episode. I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And I'm Cynara Geissler.
And Cynara, is kind enough to be filling in for our Andrea Warner, who just didn't want to watch animated features. She just was like, I can't do it. No, I don't.
A vocal opponent to all animation. It's really shocking.
Yeah. Who knew that about her? Suddenly, she's just like, I'm out. No, she is, what do we say? What's the proper euphemism? She is working on a special project? But that's actually true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually a fact.
A festive endeavor.
A festive endeavor that you will discover at a later date. A little bit of mystery. Santa's
taking a holiday and Andrea Warner has to fill in.
Yes. Another segue.
So Cynara generously agreed to join us tonight. And why don't you talk about the idea you pitched for us to talk about and why or how you thought of it?
Okay, so the scenario is that there's been an atmospheric river and Lisa, Andrea Gin, and I are all swept together into a bunker where we have to spend Christmas, and our only entertainment is these 3 Christmas specials, but we've only got enough power to watch one of them. So we have to fight about which is the one we should watch. Because I believe that everybody has a really, or persuade each other. It can be like a very civilized, seduction, whatever we want to call it. But I think everyone, I don't know, in my family, when I grew up, there was always a point where we would watch Christmas specials, whether that was like on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or in the lead up to the holiday season. And there would be, like, my mom had a bunch of them on tape, like taped off the TV. And you would argue over which one to watch first because, like, you're going to fall asleep. So that's my really high concept plan for this episode of Pop This.
And so can you tell us what you picked?
Yes. So the special I chose was a Claymation Christmas Celebration, or Will Vinton's Acclamation Christmas Celebration. What an amazing title. So easy to say.
And can you give us just like a quick summary of what it is?
Yes. So it is a 1987 era. It aired. It was a Christmas special that features stop motion claymation animation. Will Vinton is one of the creators of claymation and trademarked the term claymation. It won a 1988 Emmy. And basically it's a variety show of claymation where different Christmas songs are played. It's like a Christmas concert, but it's hosted by 2 dinosaurs, and it's a variety show Christmas special set in a fictional claymation universe, and it's a delight. That is what I chose.
And so I'll go next. I picked Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which I actually never watched as a children's special, even though it came out when I was a child, and it was on the CBC. My friend Dean, who grew up in Valdosta, Georgia, introduced it to me as an adult, and I pretty much watch it every Christmas. And it's basically the Jim Henson Company, who of course is famous for, all the Muppet movies, did an adaptation of this book about an otter and his jug band and trying to win a talent contest at Christmas and to buy a present for his mother. And yeah, I find this like such a charming Christmas special that I have started watching it as an adult every single year, even though I have no nostalgia tied to it at all. Lisa, what did you pick?
Well, I picked The Year Without a Santa Claus, and this is a 1974 stop-motion animated Christmas special by Rankin Bass Productions. Now, that was a pretty big deal. They made a lot of these stop-motion animated shows, especially around Christmas. Yeah. And this one, I'll be honest, I chose specifically for two characters, Mr. Heatmeister and Mr. Snowmeister, who come up in the story. And the rest of the animated special is okay with me. It's a little bit slow. As a kid, I would just watch it so I could get to my favorite part. But it does have a Christmas theme, and it does have the requisite dark spirit of Christmas. Like, people are getting cranky, they're getting sad. We need the Christmas spirit. And like all good Christmas specials end with a big proud note that we can all love Christmas, and Christmas is about love and, well, presents. And this one talks about presents, and I also like presents. So
is that how all Christmas specials should end, Lisa? I don't know.
Well, or they can end with raisins. I mean, sure, yeah. It's all up to you. It's all up to you.
Well, why don't we start off with talking about Lisa's? Because it's the earliest chronologically in our series of Christmas TV specials. Lisa, had you seen this since you were a child?
No, I have not. And I was kind of struck by how it didn't hold up for me. Except I realized that, or I looked up and I didn't watch that there was a live action version made with Harvey Fierstein playing Mr. Heatmeister, which really works. Michael McKean and John Goodman as Santa, and Carol Kane as Mother Nature.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, it is. You can find little clips of it on YouTube. I haven't seen the whole thing. It sounds
so relevant to my interests, like Fierstein, John Goodman. Like, I do like this. It's
a little bit different. Obviously, you don't have the charm of Mickey Rooney providing the voice of Santa, but you get John
playing
Goodman.
A crocked Santa. Like, was it me or did he do the most acting in that? Like, I felt like when he hoisted the reindeer, he was actually in the vocal studio lifting a deer. Like the way he was like, like he does the most with this.
He's
part.
A method actor, our Mickey Rooney.
We should read the background in case anyone's trying to figure out exactly which.
Yes. Okay, I will read that. About. So, The Year Without a Santa Claus. The story is based on Phyllis McGinley's 1956 book of the same name. It is narrated by Shirley Booth. This is her final acting credit before her retirement from acting. It stars Mickey Rooney, Dick Shawn, George S. Irving, and it was originally broadcast on December 10th, 1974. And the synopsis: Mrs. Claus tells the story of when Santa decided to take a year off from delivering presents. Two of his elves, Jingle and Jangle, go on a mission to find children who still believe in Santa Claus to prove the Christmas spirit still exists.
Okay, so I hadn't seen this since I was a kid, but also, like, when I watched it again, the thing that I remembered so clearly is about this one is the Heat Miser and the Cold Miser doing their show numbers.
Yeah.
In the middle of this.
They have those little minions that look like them, which I'm also quite obsessed with just as a choice. It's amazing.
Yeah, you have like a whole Broadway set in your little enclave with proper dancers. I mean, it is how we all imagine living, isn't it?
Also, I have a conspiracy theory about this now. Since Shirley Booth retired immediately after making this, do we think that's why Mrs. Claus didn't take over for Santa Claus? It's like a metaphor of Shirley Booth leaving acting. Like, is there anything there? What do we think?
I think she just wanted to go out on a high note, and boy, oh boy, wasn't this the choice.
But yeah, Heatmeister and like Snowmeister are obviously like they're the breakaway pop hit from this Christmas special. Like, take them, give them their own production. They're the stars. Like, I thought for a special about Santa, he was kind of a drag, honestly, and I didn't really enjoy when he was on screen. And the point of the special is like to get me to care about Santa again. So in that way,
it failed. It failed.
That way it failed.
Yeah, I feel like this story seemed like a bunch of like red herrings all over the place as we were going through it, because it's like it's called A Year Without a Santa Claus, when in fact, like, it's another year with Santa Claus.
Yeah. Spoiler: Santa does his job. His one job.
Exactly. It's like also like trying to call in sick when you basically work one day a year is like a little bit like, I don't know how sympathetic I'm going to be about that.
Did this special invent? Is this the first moment of the man cold depicted in popular culture? Is it important for that reason? I wonder.
Yes,
maybe. But I feel like, you know, like there's a bunch of red herrings in that. It seems for a moment as though Mrs. Claus is just going to step into the role and just take over, and that this, you know, Christmas story is going to be this novel idea about how Mrs. Claus just did it.
The woman behind the man.
Yeah.
Right?
And so like but then she kind of sings the song about how she could do it, and then she's like, maybe not. I don't think so.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not really into this. Maybe I can't
not
really
ready.
do it. Yeah.
And she totally pulls back, and then they keep going again, back on track with the regular story. And then I feel like there's another point further down in which Santa, you know, cancels Christmas, and he gets the children of the world to sign off on it. They're happy, they're fine with it, and they in fact all gather to make toys to give to Santa. And that feels like another natural ending point to this story, where it's like, oh, here's another novel Christmas tale of how the children of the world were like, we don't need presents.
I love the idea of a Christmas special that feels bloated. Like, it's so funny because normally they're so zippy and they have such a formula, but this one was like another twist, another turn. Like,
I know.
Well, and it doesn't even make any sense why they needed to go and make it snow, because that was just to get the little reindeer
that was just
out
because if a reindeer leaves the North Pole, it snows, or it can get sick. Or to get sick because there's no snow was the weird rule of this world. But then I was like, but you're literally trading spring in the North Pole where the deer is now to get snow in this other place. So I think the deer's going to die. Like, I was like,
yeah, they're all going to die.
Like, are they going to kill the people of the North Pole who are ice people? Like, for this? Yeah.
Just to have one snowy day in Southtown?
But also, is this like after like he cancels Christmas, this sad little girl writes him a letter about like how her Christmas will be so sad if she doesn't have Santa Claus bringing her presents, and then like he uncancels it at the last minute. And so, is this a show about children's like Christmas fragility and how like they could not handle not having a Christmas?
I think it's the first instance of cancel culture. And the backlash. No, I don't think that. But yeah.
But it's just like you know, the one person ruins it for everyone, right? Like this one kid writes back and guilt trips Santa into uncanceling Christmas, and then he like has told his workforce already like Christmas is canceled, and so they stop doing stuff, and then on Christmas Eve he's like, oh, it's back on again. Like, why would
make up your mind, buddy? Come on, what's going on?
It's like when we think of when it aired, when is it? It's like post Nixon. So part of me is just like, man, everyone's desperate not to talk about Vietnam. Like there's a real like gotta get our brother, gotta get back together and like, you know, find love and belief and wholesome values. Like there's something odd culturally going on in the moment of this special.
It's also, I don't know what year this is supposed to be. Is it Victorian? Like, I don't know what the
Well, it
outfit.
aired in the 70s, but yeah, what is the actual year in the book? Who knows? Yeah, we don't know. And the town is weird because it just has a mayor who his only job is to troll people into making it snow in the town, which I find a very strange
very creepy,
depiction of a town mayor. Like there's something very kind of like Broadway about it. Like it's a weird little beast, that special.
Oh, it's
but
weird, yeah.
like, and does it ever go sunny in the North Pole? Like, we never
I
find
never
out
saw
about that.
We never did see that. I don't know if that was the trade-off and why Mother Nature needed that as a trade-off. I don't know. All I remember as a kid was Mr. Heatmeister and Mr. Snow. That's all I remember. I didn't remember the saggy storyline that went around it. And it seems that was understood for making the live action, that these are our stars.
But it's also a little interesting to watch it in the era of COVID, because you're like, if Santa just like had a cold and just decided to visit every child in the world on Christmas Eve in 2021, like that would be
that's
a
whole
real
other dimension.
This takes me back to my choir party where I wrote Santa as a super spreader. This is about that. What if Santa was a super spreader? Think about it.
Well, I just want to say how gracious it was that you both watched this, and how I apologize. And I in no way want to suggest that I am endorsing that anyone else take some time out of their holidays to watch The Year Without.
Wow, Lisa is self-eliminating her chosen special.
Oh, yes, I am.
I don't know if I agree with you, even though I didn't enjoy watching it per se, but I would, because like, I mean, I think it says some interesting things about like Santa and COVID, like, you know, Santa
I'd rather watch Elf if we're going to do a
Christmas.
story about there's no Christmas spirit and people don't believe in Christmas anymore. I'd rather watch Elf.
Yeah, it is. We can think of Christmas specials as having archetypes, right? And this definitely fits into that. We got to get Santa hype.
Yeah, exactly.
Genre, right?
He's all sad. He can't do his job because no one believes in him anymore.
Yeah, like the fragile male ego.
Yeah.
And it addresses like global warming a little bit. Like,
oh wow,
I think it's hitting
different for Andrea in 2021.
Yeah, no kidding. I think your lens is quite different here than mine was watching this.
You know what? I love the puppetry. Like, I think the character design is so interesting because they move really well, but the facial expressions are really hard, so they all kind of look a little surreal and cross-eyed sometimes. And there's something that makes the puppetry a bit uncanny. Like it's yeah, like as a piece of sort of animation history in a way that we're not doing that with puppets anymore. Our puppetry doesn't really look like that if we make
We did the stop motion. I think that Wes Anderson did that for the Fabulous Mr. Fox.
It looks a little like that, but it's still a very different aesthetic than this kind of moment. So it's interesting to look at for those reasons too, I think, like some of the character design. And obviously, as we said, Snowmeister and Heatmeister, like, they need their own musical. They need a career.
Yeah.
They are stars just trapped in this mediocre show that's going to close as soon as it opens. That's too bad for them, you know?
Agreed.
Bring them bring them back to do a climate change Christmas special.
Wow. Whoa. Mind blown. Wow. Look at this producer. She never shuts it off. She's just always producing.
Well, maybe that's the whole issue. Maybe we just have a big battle going on between the two of them. And if we could just somehow reconcile Mr. Heatmeister and Mr. Snowmeister, we could work this whole climate change thing out.
When they were going to see Mother Nature, there was a part of me that was like, do they have to give her the heart of Te-Fiti? Like, I was like, I'm getting like a Moana seed here. Like, there seems to be some seminal things that happened in this special, which we can agree is like, its parts are much greater than the sum of what it became.
That is probably the best way to sum it all up.
Yeah, that's a very good summary.
And that's very generous of you. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on and talk about Emmett Otter's Jug Band at Christmas. Had either of you seen this before?
No.
I had seen parts of it, but I'd never watched it in full.
Do you find that just so strange? Because it was like made in Toronto and aired on the CBC. But
and my dear friend, writer Dina Del Bucchio loves otters. And so I know it's like a very important special to her. So that's how I heard about it for the first time. And that's super weird because my number one celebrity crush is Paul Williams. So like, it's weird.
Yes.
It's
Really?
weird that this piece of the Williams oeuvre was not like more known to me until I really met Dina. And
He just shows up in the oddest places, doesn't he?
He knows what's good.
Music.
He knows what's good.
He does. So you're a fan of Phantom of the Paradise then?
I'm a huge fan of Phantom of the Paradise. I'm from Winnipeg, where it's
that is the weirdest thing ever. We could do a whole podcast. I found that out only a couple of years ago that Phantom of the Paradise was only big in two places, Winnipeg and Paris.
Paris, yeah. Well, you know what? If you want to have me back to do Phantom of the Paradise, I would be delighted to talk to you about that.
What is Phantom of the Paradise?
It's like it's like a sort of a rock and roll Phantom of the Opera, or what do you call it?
Faust. It's like Faust, Phantom of the Opera, if it was about record labels. And it is also contemporaneous with Rocky Horror. It's Rocky Horror's more famous. I would argue it's not really fair that it is, because they're different films that they're doing different things. But it's Brian De Palma's first movie as a director.
Daft Punk talk about how much they loved Phantom of the Paradise, and that's why they wanted to work with Paul Williams on their last album.
And that's why I'm married to both members of Daft Punk. Just kidding.
Well, how would we know?
I feel like we need to steer back to Emmett Otter.
Yes,
though,
I'm sorry.
Who I
Emmett
love
Otter.
so much. I loved this, and like, man, when we talk about if Lisa's special is post Nixon, this is like Jim Henson, full on hippie. Like, what a hippie. I love it so much. Like, this gift of the Magi, kind of like, here's a song we've always sung on the river. And then they sing it and you're like, that's a 70s pop ballad, but okay. Like,
So why don't I just give a brief background and description in case anyone hasn't seen it or heard of it. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas is a 1977 TV special based on the children's book of the same name by Russell Hoban. Directed by Jim Henson, it features a cast of Muppet characters. It was produced by the Jim Henson Company and premiered on CBC television. And the sort of plot summary of this 1 hour special. In this 1 hour musical Christmas special, Kermit the Frog narrates the story of Alice Otter and her son Emmett, who live along the river in the village of Frogtown Hollow. Ma and Emmett struggle to make ends meet through odd jobs and projects for neighbors and villagers. Known for their musical abilities, the Otters are encouraged by their friends to enter a local talent contest in hopes of winning the $50 prize to buy Christmas gifts for each other. It's basically the gift of the Magi meets the Muppets.
oh my gosh, the impressiveness of sets. Like, as I understand it, this was sort of the first time they did set animation where they would like build an entire set and cut holes in sets so they could do hand puppetry, but transfer to like marionetting and making the pup. Like, it's very, the technical, like, you really, it's showy in that you can tell so much effort went into making it, is how I feel while watching it, in a good way.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you feel very nostalgic for, you know, people building sets and people sewing puppets and people, like, you know, just like having the mastery of puppetry and being able to like row a boat with a puppet and do dialogue.
They really row that boat for a long time. Like, they really want you to see that it can do a lot of rotations, which I like. It's like Emmett Otter is jacked, okay? He rows that boat. So he's so strong.
Actual water, yeah.
He could swim in it, but instead...
Oh, that's true.
He's got like the hugest... otters have arms, right? I was like, what do they have? Fin hands? That makes no sense.
They have those cute little hands.
Yeah, but
little
like
otters.
He probably is really muscular under that coat. I'm just saying.
Well, wearing that unfortunate hat's not going to help him.
Why? Yeah, why is... You know, he's wearing a hat like when an old-timey cartoon character gets hurt and there's an ice bag with a kerchief tied around it.
He doesn't lose it to keep his ears warm?
I don't know. Yeah, I think to denote the poverty.
It's the ears.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's also a hole in his hat.
Like the one he put in the wash bin.
Right? Exactly.
But so the music for this special is so amazing. We
amazing.
talked about Paul Williams, but like what, like the song, the barbecue song is
oh my
amazingly
gosh,
catchy.
I can't believe they didn't get to do their version of Barbecue, which was better than the first guy that went.
Okay, so Cynara, you're a person who performs singing and stuff like that, and like if a group performed the song you're planning to sing before you in a show, would you change your song?
Well, no, like they're just being so respectful. Like that's, I feel like part of the Jim Henson hippie ethos is like, you know, the Nightmare Band wins that $50 and they cut and run. But like these people who like worked on their craft and were respectful of their fellow artists, like they're getting a beautiful permanent job in the community. Like it's very, I kind of love that they were like so respectful of this man they didn't know. But what I would say is like, now, no, you would be like, this is a chance to sing better than that person. Like it's kind of competitive, but not our little
true.
Emmett Otter-led jug band. Those guys just like want to share peace, joy, and love about barbecue.
It was a gentler time. Yeah.
Yeah.
What time? What? Oh, when the movie was made. I'm like trying to
Yeah.
figure out when the jug band was, but I guess 70s.
But
80s.
you're right. Like in the sort of sing-off movies we see today, it's about like one-upsmanship.
Oh, for sure. I'm in community choir, so we're definitely not like one-upping other choirs. Like, can you imagine? That would be so funny. Like, what's their repertoire going to be? We're going to learn it jazzier. Like, we're not doing that.
Like suddenly it becomes Bring It On.
Yeah. Like that's, so I would say, yeah, like there would be a respectful conversation that would be like, oh, I'm doing this number. I'll choose a different Sarah Slean song. Like, I don't know, right? Like people would communicate their song. So even if there was like they did covers from the same artist, they would do different ones. So I just think that's part of like, the opinion of this special and what it wants to model to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so interesting that the River Bottom Nightmare Band, like even though they're kind of like the town ruffians or whatever, and they kind of wreak havoc wherever they go, they're treated with respect and kindness, you know, like in the special. Like when they perform, they don't win because they're like evil and somehow tricked everybody or threatened everybody or whatever. They win because the audience loves them and they get like the biggest cheers of the night.
Their
or whatever.
rock and roll music. It's kind of like Jim Henson and Paul Williams grudgingly recognizing rock and roll is cool, even if they don't like it, which I'm like, that's quite nice. Yeah. Like the Nightmare Band is awesome. They sound great. And the most that they kind of do is go, yeah, 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 like outside their house on their motorcycles.
Yeah.
And then they travel all the way from River Bottom. So we know they're like further outer from another town.
Yeah.
So they come into this town, they win the money, they sort of annoy the lady at the music store, but they don't actually steal anything, I don't think. And then they play their rock and roll music and then they're like out of town. Like it's actually, as a threat, the real threat in this special is poverty. Like it's very clear about poverty, which I find so interesting, like much more in a way that later Muppets work kind of wouldn't touch as deeply. Like it's very cause-based and sort of like we can overcome poverty through community. Like it's really interesting to me how much they talk about like, I've only got these tools and I've only, you know, got this wash bin and I can only wear this same dress every day. And then like her laundry clients are other people in the community who are just like mean to her. It's very clear that they're like the poor people in town in a way where I just think it's not, future Muppet work doesn't quite do that, right?
Yeah, there's a real focus on money in this for like a children's Christmas special. You know, like the sort of
I know,
back
for
and
kids
forth.
to be all $40 for a guitar. Isn't that a good deal, Mom? Or am I confused? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the part where they talk about like, they barter for socks for pumpkins so she can buy more wool to make more socks.
It's bleak, the stuff they talk
Yeah.
about. It's quite bleak. And I do love that her and her son can, kind of shoot the poop in a Marxian way. Like, good for them. But it's fascinating that it's in a children's special and that ultimately they will have a living wage now that they took a chance on this talent contest, because like their real talent is making art together and sharing that with others. Like that's very wholesome and quite beautiful.
That is. Oh, that's beautiful when you put it that way.
But so, I mean, you know, like there's a bunch of business reasons why this isn't as like widely available as other Muppet entities are. But like, why do you think this hasn't really caught on as like a Christmas special that's, you know, very popular? Like it doesn't seem like many people know about it.
It is slow.
Sorry, it is slow.
It has languid river-like pacing. It's
okay.
You're
very generous with all of these stories. I love that.
You know what? Nice. I'm a Christmas special stan. Obviously, like I will forgive. Yes. I will. I think forgive a lot in a Christmas special if I believe at its core it is trying to do something. Like
that's very fair. Know? I just found it very slow and the Gift of the Magi. I mean, they could have cut
down the talent show a lot. Like, I don't know that we needed to see the additional acts, but in a way, you're kind of like, oh, that's so funny because on the Muppet Show, that's the structure, and they like that and they're working on that, but like it doesn't quite fit in this.
But I think that's the nature of the Christmas children's television special. It's a little boring because you know what? All kids are doing right now is killing time until Christmas morning and they can open their presents.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be an exciting or interesting product to put in front of them. It's just something to fill the hours before their parents put them to sleep.
Yeah, you want to occupy their time so you can wrap presents or like on Christmas so they can, you know, fall asleep with holding their Zeppelin toy or whatever. Like it's that type. It's got to have, you're right. Like I think it's a bit of a sedative.
Yeah.
I think it's artistically all these things you're mentioning about the sets, the music, but I think ultimately it's not very much fun to watch. That's I have to say that's my
But did you like
assessment.
the Nightmare Band, Lisa? Like as a
Of course I like the
you...
Nightmare Band. Yes, of course, though they're the obvious winners. Of course that jumped out at me in this story. I wouldn't be living in this town either. I would be hanging out, hopefully, with the ruffians in that rock and roll band.
Were you attracted to the bear in the Nightmare Band? Yes or no?
I'm just going to say that I hope great things happen to those fellas, you know, and they really make a go of this win. Competition.
You do get the sense that town will be like the Nightmare Band played here once, won a talent show as they like go on to be international superstars.
As they become queen or something. Yeah. I mean, there's, I thought it was very funny that you said that it was, you know, they won, but the little band, they actually went and start performing for the community and how much nicer that is. And yeah, I'm not really buying that. So...
the River Bottom Band has to be applauded for that, having a fish in a tank performing behind them.
So showy. I love it.
Yeah,
so
that's
showy.
An amazing
the outfits,
stunt.
Everything was there. I mean, that was an awful lot, I think. I think that was actually a little bit too much for that talent competition.
Hear me out. What if Snowmeister and Heatmeister got together with the Nightmare Band?
Yeah, I think a supergroup is what we really need from this whole podcast.
Maybe that's my whole plan all along.
Yeah, like maybe the River Bottom Band deserves their own spin-off, right?
Yeah. I would absolutely watch a sequel about the River Bottom Nightmare Band.
I'd like to see them getting them back again, like the VH1 specials, with them running at the camera with their hands up. Yeah, where are they now?
I love the amount of producing that is happening in this episode. Like, I'm really excited for you to go away and produce all these new specials that we are developing. Like, I hope.
Yeah,
the River Bottom Band TV is listening. Okay,
yeah. with their custom convertible with the fish tank in the back, so they can travel around with their friend.
Yeah, like, you know what? I actually thought that was really inclusive of them. I appreciated that. I was like, look at that. Like, they've got a setup for their fish friend. They're not leaving him behind.
Yeah.
There's some good in everybody, Jim Henson wants us to know. Even the guys who can't afford dental care. Yeah.
Okay, well, so we know what Lisa thinks about the Emmett Otter. But
I tried to stay out of the lovely conversation the two of you were having. It just wasn't my, wasn't my cup of bilge water or whatever that was they were going around in.
You know what? For Lisa, it was snake oil, and she hasn't needed to oil a snake in years.
Thank you. That's it exactly. That was a great line. That was my favorite line.
It has those kind of show businessy jokes that Jim Henson likes, but like it's just not gelled into that Muppet Show formula, right? Which I think is so interesting about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it couldn't quite be a totally different thing, and it didn't, I don't know, quite maybe succeed in the thing it was trying to be, but there's so much that I love about it.
Yeah. So, okay, let's move on to our third option. Yes. The Claymation Christmas Celebration, which is Cynara's pick, featuring the California Raisins.
Yes. So I already talked a little bit about the structure of this, but essentially it's structured like a variety show that you would watch on TV at Christmas, which I think like a telethon almost, right? But it would feature like people raising money for something or introducing pieces of music because they're culturally important. And what I kind of love about this special is that, yeah, it's this variety show, but it's done with claymation. And I think in 24 minutes, they pack in like 200 original characters. Like they really go all out with how many characters they create for these numbers. And there's no sort of like stakes to it. There's no political overarching message. It's kind of like, hey, it's Christmas and here are some things we think are neat. And then it's very entertaining. And like, for the 80s, the era where everything was a product, like every piece of media was being created to sell you a product, I just find something so whimsical about this. We can talk about the California Raisins, but even in this special, I love that they're just a guest. Like it's not called the California Raisins Christmas Special, right? Like it's a claymation Christmas celebration. I feel that all the artists are kind of weighted equally, which is just, there's so many fascinating things about the structure of this thing, which the dinosaurs are also lightly parodying Siskel and Ebert. And yes, but there's...
it's like, why are there dinosaurs hosting this? That's
to
what
me,
I was wondering.
So to me, this special, and you can tell me what you think, but I think it becomes weirdly timeless in a way, even though it has the California Raisins, this huge marker of a specific moment in the 80s, because it kind of steers away from having a broader point beyond just kind of being like, oh, here's a traditional carol we're going to do. Here's a jazzy version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer where the California Raisins are a little bit tipsy after a gig and they build a sleigh out of garbage. Like it just makes these choices that I find so charming. And it's not like buy an action figure. And I really think that's why it sticks out to me as this 80s artifact, but it's not aggressively capitalistic the way that a lot of things made for kids in the 80s are. And so dinosaurs, it's because like in the 60s
kids
there was
dinosaurs.
I did look into this actually because I think it's a really interesting question. I like this special. I watch it a lot and people do always bring up the dinosaurs, and I was always kind of like, remember they had just such a big moment in the 80s. The toys became popular. You had Land Before Time. You had Denver the Last Dinosaur. You had Dinosaurs, the sitcom. Like there was this sort of 7-year block where dinosaurs were everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So I just think it's funny that they were like, it's popular, dinosaurs. He'd made this other property with these characters too. But I just think, to me, this special is Will Vinton just hard auditioning to be like, I'm going to be Disney. Like, look at all this stuff that I can do. Look at what I've created. Let me showcase a big range of work. It's got goofy jokes. Like, it's a bit surreal. I like that in the Carol of the Bells numbers, it's actually anthropomorphized bells that hit themselves with a hammer. Like, it's kind of so Looney Tunes, but the animation on the movement is incredible. Like, the expressions, the range, the effort, again. I find it so impressive.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a sad story, though, in the background of this with Will Vinton and his work and how, like I was reading that the founder of Nike took over his company and kicked him out and put his son in charge.
It's so sad. Like, he wasn't a businessman. So he had an architecture degree and he was interested in film, and he met up with this other guy who was an animator, and he was the one that did the sculpting. But Will Vinton figured out how to build sets and adjust cameras and basically sort of pioneer the technology for filming claymation. And so then he would always hire different animators, but he just had this sort of, he was this guy from Oregon who liked to build stuff and became super interested in art and animation. And it's so sad because he basically lost his studio due to bad business decisions. And if you look at the sort of type of work he does, he's like a guy trying to have fun, and it makes sense to me that this guy working in Oregon on this claymation technology wouldn't be super business savvy in 80s environment. It's, you know what I mean? You can kind of see this Pacific Northwest, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the story around Adventure Time, just kind of a person who has a really strong aesthetic and who comes from Oregon, who kind of gets put into Hollywood and struggles with the culture of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's an early example of that. They're making a documentary about him, which is allegedly going to come out this year, called Clay Dream. And I would love to watch it. I'm so interested because, claymation became his trademark. Different clay animation has existed for a long time since plasticine was invented. Basically, people did stuff with it in film, but he's just such a significant animator not quite an animator, but director, set builder, filmmaker. And then, his contributions are really interesting. But of course, all that stuff kind of gets erased by the giant mergers in the film world, right? We know Disney and Pixar now, even Will Vinton Studios, which became Leica, probably a lot of people wouldn't know the films that they make off the top of their head, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's that, and there's also sort of the rise and fall of the California raisins.
Wow.
I heard it through the grapevine. I love it. I love it. So do you know that the California raisins exist because the Raisin Board of California was trying to think of a way to get people to eat more raisins? Because grape and raisin farmers were like, look, we got a lot of raisins. It's really sunny here. People don't like them. We got to get big raisin needs some representation, or it needs to happen. They don't even have big raisin yet. Now they do because of the California raisins. But the only thing they hadn't tried, literally an ad exec in a meeting, as the story goes, was the only thing we haven't tried is singing and dancing raisins, singing Heard It Through the Grapevine. And then they were like, yeah, let's do that. So they called up Will Vinton, who created the California raisins with an animator. I can't remember if it was his original partner animator at the time, but they banged it out. And what is so fascinating about the California raisins is rather than sort of belong to any one company, they were doing commercials for Sun-Maid raisins famously, but then they got licensed to Raisin Bran. And after that, they got licensed to I believe it was a raisin breakfast biscuit at Hardee's. So they became, it's he created these characters who became celebrity spokespeople, not tied to just one brand. It fascinates me. They recorded albums, and the figures.
Michael Jackson was a voice.
Yeah, they didn't create them to sell toys. They created them to get people hype about raisins. It's just such a weird, funny origin, and people love them. And the toys got made later as promotional items, always promoting some kind of comestible raisin product. It's just really strange. My mom had a huge collection of California raisins, and her friends multiple times for Halloween did group costumes where they were the California raisins in the 80s. And so I also think I was predisposed to liking the California raisins, even though I hate raisins and think they're the dementors of grapes. They're disgusting. I don't enjoy eating them. I love these weird raisin mascots.
But so the California raisins kind of disappeared from pop culture. And it's because they stopped getting funding from the California Raisin Board.
It was kind of like the Beatles. One of the raisins just started to get really spiritual, and then they just didn't work as a group anymore. It's complicated. No. So what actually happened was basically it's very costly to do the claymation commercials and to produce these commercials. And so they were faddish, I guess, and brands just it became no longer worthwhile for advertisers to spend the money to make the ads Like, it just didn't make sense from a sales perspective. And that's why the California Raisins dropped off. It's just like...
I mean, I feel like they're a pop culture icon of the 80s, but I feel like if you kind of are looking at it as a modern day person, there is a little bit of discomfort in watching the California Raisins because of, you know, like, you're like, is this veering into caricature territory?
Yeah,
with the way
I hear that. I think there was zero awareness of that at all in the 80s. I think it had to do with kind of like the popularity of Motown, which we sort of see in like Back to the Future and other movies that are putting things in the 50s. There's like some cultural stuff going on there where people in the 80s got into Motown, and it was in an appreciative way. I'm not going to say it wasn't appropriative as well. So I think it's unexamined, but they're kind of like, so the California Raisins, they're kind of supposed to be like the Temptations because they heard it through the grapevine. Yeah. But I also don't think I'm the person to like be speaking for if there's a racial read to do there. Cause like, yeah, like I don't think I'm the qualified person, but like, you know.
Yeah, it just feels like I don't see them making a comeback because of that.
I 100% agree that these are corporate mascots to be licensed out to other brands that could literally only exist in a like 1983 boardroom. Like nobody else
like
is...
I feel like kind of like the M&M's characters are like children of the California Raisins.
But they don't,
you know what I mean?
Sell anything other than M&Ms, and like that is such the weird thing about the California Raisins, that they're almost like who do we even compare them to? They're more like actors. They're more like in that they act for different brands. Like, oh, we booked another corporate gig. Like, it's just so weird that they exist.
It is a completely bizarre phenomenon that is just so specific to the 80s.
And at the height of raisin hype, Capcom actually developed like a side scroller California Raisins game, which several people like reviewed, but it never made it to public market. So I also think it was like we were testing to see if the raisins would become like Gem and the Holograms or Transformers. Like, I think at some point it flips into like a profitable character, but I think they were absolutely designed in like this kind of whimsical way where it was like an animation job where you got to create an original character for the commercial. And so much of the special, like the character designs, I think they're always a little bit odd. Like, I love that there's ice dancing walruses, and she's topless, but she doesn't have nipples. Like, she has these boob underlines, and the way that number is handled. Like, the other thing I would say is, like, you might be like, Cynara, don't you find this special weirdly fat phobic? And it's like, to me, it skirts that line like the same way that I find Weird Al's Fat video joyful. I sort of find the depiction of gluttony in this joyful, because you have the serious, intelligent, you know, Rex, who's just trying to correct the goofy guy that likes to eat to be like, no, wassail isn't this, wassail isn't that. Here's a dictionary that I'm going to read from. And then it just keeps coming back to how Christmas is about enjoying snacks. And there's never a moment where they're like, that T-Rex is right. Like, nobody's right. Like, it's kind of just like, you could be serious or you could be goofy, but we all agree we're having a good time. And it's such a, like, just, it's strange. I can't compare it to a single other special I've seen. Like, how did you all feel?
So, Lisa, had you seen it before?
I have not seen it before. I don't intend to watch it again.
You didn't like anything about it? Oh, my goodness.
No, I mean, I thought it was it was extremely imaginative, and it kind of blew my mind in that way, that each song felt so different.
Yeah, because there's like that one where it was kind of spiritual dust animation. Like, it's...
With those hands...
Yeah.
Kind of swirling together. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was extremely inventive. I don't, are you suggesting I would watch this every Christmas? Is that where we're going?
I was suggesting that this is the last thing you watch before you perish in our holiday bunker. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
No, I would say I apprecited it.
Okay.
Is there any animated Christmas special that you would willingly watch, Lisa?
The Grinch. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. The classic, the animated classic, with Boris Karloff narrating it.
Okay, the original.
Yeah, I'll watch that.
You know what?
That would probably be the one that I could still recommend.
I actually love A Garfield Christmas too, which came out the same year as this, and they would often air together. So I associate those two strongly, and I actually really love that era of Garfield where he's like voiced by Lorenzo Music, and the specials are quite cute, and it's like a very wholesome Christmas special. I'm going to try to force you to.
I maintain that I think Lisa could watch literally any Christmas children's special in history and find it boring because they are made for children who are desperately trying to pass hours until they can open presents.
Yes, I recognize that.
The other thing about this special is I could talk about it for 24,000 years, and it's only 24 minutes long. I feel like it is a very lean special, and that is
a very lean special.
That's one of its. But it also is fat positive. But it includes like a lot. It packs a lot into those 24 minutes. But I don't think it feels overwhelming. I'm not going to disagree with that. Yeah, no, I don't think it feels like agree. Andrea, did you enjoy any part of this special? Like any highlights?
I enjoyed the music of it, and I enjoyed the wassailing joke that was running through it. I mean, yeah, I'm glad I saw it, and I'm glad I kind of got the opportunity to dig into the history of the California raisins because I had not thought of them since the 80s. And it's like where are they now? Kind of like update on the California raisins, and so yeah, I am grateful for that. So, okay. Lisa, if you had to watch one of these again, which one would you watch?
Oh my gosh.
If we were in a bunker, which one would we hit play on? If it's the last movie we can watch.
It's the last movie we can watch, and we've agreed we're watching a movie.
Well, okay, if it's the last movie, I will go with Emmett's Jug Band just because it's so sweet, and I would like to go out on thinking that the world was a kind place.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to go out eating raisins? I'm so confused.
I'm confused that you even asked me that question.
I know you love the color raisin, so I just am trying to follow up here.
Apricot.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Like, that's also weird that every fruit, its dried version of itself is just called dried apricot, but for grapes, they become a raisin.
It's a sus. Word.
It's sus, right? Mm-hmm. It's very sus to me. Like, what? You're the monarch butterfly of fruits? Get out of here. I don't trust it. Anyway, what was I supposed to... Oh, yeah, what am I going to take to the end? Obviously, a claymation Christmas celebration. I could notice new things in it every time I watched it, and I hope that we have some herbal supplements with us and that I could enjoy this while on an herbal supplement. And I think it will hit perfect.
Yeah.
As a way to go.
I have to agree with Lisa though. Like I'd want to, even though I have appreciation for all three in different ways, I would want to watch Emmett Otter because I'd want to go out on like a nice note.
Yeah.
Like people are good.
Honestly, ideally, if the dinosaurs from my special could host the Nightmare Band and the Heatmeister and Snowmeister, that would be like...
well, we can do a mashup then. I'll take the mashup.
That would be don't you think that would be a perfect show to go out on?
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. So we like to leave our episodes on things that we recommend. So Lisa, you kind of took back, like this was the Christmas special that you picked and then you kind of took it back. But what are you recommending now at the end of the episode?
I am recommending a short YouTube clip that I watch every Christmas. This is part of my tradition, and it is called The Christmas Tree. And it is from the comedian John Roberts. I don't know if you know him. He does the voice of Linda for Bob's Burgers. Every year, I watch this little clip called The Christmas Tree, and he's playing a character that is based on his mother. And all you see is him. All you see is how infatuated his mother is with the Christmas tree. And I watch it every year. It's from 2007. And it is part of my holiday tradition. So
why?
I am.
Is it really funny?
It is so funny. It is her voice. She does this, he's doing.
Is he doing like
character.
Linda Belcher voice?
Almost. But he's playing his mom up in this really like, all right, everyone, get the tree. We're going now to get the tree. Get the tree. Put the tree up. Get that stuff up from behind the tree. Who's coming over? Put the lights on. Look at my tree. I love my tree. It's very hard to explain until you've seen it. Once you've seen it,
I'm picking it up. Yeah, I'm getting what it's about. I'm into it.
You're going to love it, and you're also going to send it around to everybody you know every Christmas. Yeah, so it's just called The Christmas Tree. You can look it up once you say, if you also Google, look at the tree.
If I Google look at the tree, it's super SEO'd, okay?
Yes, yeah, very much, yeah.
Okay, Cynara, what's your recommendation?
Does my recommendation have to be a holiday recommendation?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So I've been watching Yellow Jackets, and I've
heard of that.
I am digging it. I think that I guess I've come to realize that I think that a certain type of sports culture brings out the worst in humanity. So the plot of this, that like a sports team in the 90s crashes in the remote Canadian wilderness where they live for 19 months, doing unspeakable things to survive. I'm like, yeah, athletes would absolutely eat each other as soon as possible. Like, that just works.
That sounds terrible.
That works for me as a representation of teen girls, but it's kind of like Alive meets Mean Girls. Like, there's something like meets Lord of the Flies. And Juliette Lewis is in it. As one of the girls as an adult, because they are found. So this plane crashes with this soccer team who are trying to go to Seattle. This is where it gets confusing. It's like, well, to avoid a storm in Seattle, we're going to be flying over the Canadian Rockies into Ontario. Like, what is that? Is that a flight path? Like, that confuses me. But if you can put that aside, I do like that they are marooned in Ontario. There's something really funny about that to me.
Okay, so that sounds awesome. Although I'm very terrified with survival.
It's a bit gory.
Survival stories.
I've watched 3 episodes and it is a bit gory. But like I do the eye covering when I know.
Yeah, I think I have to do that too.
You can anticipate when the gore will be. So
okay. So I'm going to recommend the original 1961 version of West Side Story, in anticipation of Steven Spielberg's new West Side Story being released next week, or because we record a week ahead of time this week. But if anyone hasn't seen it, the original West Side Story, and we're going to do an episode on it soon when we all get a chance to see it. But going back to the original and just seeing the dancing, like Rita Moreno's dancing and Natalie Wood, and it's so amazing.
They're great songs. They are great songs.
It's one of my favorite musicals.
Fun queer fact about West Side Story. Allegedly, it was Montgomery Clift's idea, and he told it to Sondheim when they were hanging out on Fire Island together. So enjoy that.
I love Montgomery Clift. Oh,
I do too.
Okay.
I'm super excited to see the Steven Spielberg version.
I think he loves it, and he's going to make it look beautiful.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on again, Cynara. Thank you so much for filling in for Ms. Warner.
I just hope Andrea can be Santa. If anyone can be Santa, Andrea Warner can, though.
Absolutely.
If anyone can deliver presents around the world in one night, driving standard, it's Andrea Warner. Thank you for having me. This was such a pleasure. I hope I
thank you, and thank you for opening my eyes to so much.
I hope you will think of the California raisins again one more time before you perish and leave this world.
You just take a moment to evaluate their cultural relevancy in the 80s and why they might be
I've thought about dumber things, so why not something like this?
Or think about a topless ice dancing walrus. I think we all should think about that.
Don't I already? Yes.
So, we have to go into our spiel at the end, which Andrea Warner normally does. So I'm sure this won't be smooth. But you can, if you have any questions or comments, you can find us on Twitter or Instagram. You can rate us on iTunes, 5 stars.
5 stars.
Yeah. And so, Lisa, over to you.
And yes, over to you. Thank you so much for listening. Andrea Gin is our co-host and producer, and we sure appreciate all the work that this episode's going to be for her. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh so maniacally like a California raisin. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and being here with us, and I hope you enjoy whatever Christmas special is your tradition.
Raising some hell this Christmas.
Ooh, raising some little hell. Oh, I can't sing. Right. Sorry, I'll stop.
Oh, yeah, there's a song in there.
There is.
Raising a Little Hell.
Hell Raisin, a movie about raisins gone bad. This Christmas.
Just the idea of raisins gone bad already.
Oh my God, they're
show.
like breaking out of the fruitcake, or I don't. You know what? We'll workshop it.
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.